Bring in, as I mentioned earlier, these experts. We've had so much going on, and I apologize, it's taken us a while to get to you guys. Specifically, Secretary of State Phil McGrane, what has voter turnout been like? This is kind of an interesting year. It's a primary, so certainly never as big of a turnout as general elections.
I always want to see more people vote in the primary election compared to November, but as you know, Morgan, like, people are going to show up in November. I think that one of the interesting things, you know, at the top of the ticket, we heard from Senator Risch, we heard from Governor Little, but a lot of the races were uncontested. And so it's really going to be legislative races and some really regional hot pockets. What we were watching throughout the day was extra high turnout in southeastern Idaho.
Oh, wow.
So I think Senator Guthrie versus Worley's race over there. And then really what stands out to me right now watching the numbers is the Magic Valley. Okay. We've got some counties that are either over 40% or knocking on 40% turnout, and we're still more votes are to come in. So I think that's going to be one of the interesting stories is where are the really close races. One of the cool things on Vote Idaho we have this time is you can track close races to see are there going to be any neck and neck. 2 years ago over in Bingham County, we had the race for the House of Representatives determined by 4 votes. And so one of the things our office is watching, you know, everyone always asks, your viewers certainly know this, like, does my vote count? When you think of 4 votes determining a race, it absolutely does. And so we're watching really closely there.
Are you able to say why those specific pockets have been so contested with those legislative races?
You know, I think one of the really interesting things, Governor Little talked about, you know, our success as a state in terms of the growth. With those people comes money and comes political tactics. We're seeing the state change. In addition to counting the votes, our office also oversees campaign finance. So I think that the race over in southeastern Idaho for the Senate seat will be most likely the most expensive legislative race we've ever had. Because you take the candidates, but you also have all the political action committees. And because there wasn't as much activity at the statewide level, some of that money got diverted and just focused on a few of these legislative races. I think similarly Magic Valley. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't know if they'll be close or not. That we'll kind of see as the results come in. But certainly a lot of attention going to those races. And voters, I think Dr. Witt knows this well, like all the mailers, all the ads. Like some districts, if you live in, it's been a really quiet election. You haven't seen many yard signs. Other districts, you've been bombarded. I had someone complaining today about too many text messages. Right? And so it's just an interesting thing to watch and how our state is evolving in the political space as well.
Yeah, we've seen campaign posters for coroner, for district judges, which has been really interesting. Money going into those campaigns as well.
Right, a coroner's race is one that most people don't even know or follow, and all of a sudden you're seeing so much more attention on it. I think the district judge race, and I think one of the things too I'm watching, so Camas County and Adams County are probably approaching 45% turnout. That just shows like local races matter still. Like the county races, you touched on it earlier, those, whether it's the county commission or others, people care a lot, especially in the smaller communities, and so we're seeing that play out today as well.
And why should people care so much about those races, Dr. Witt?
Well, I think we spend a lot of time thinking about the national level, but the people who are going to make decisions that impact your everyday are the legislators and your, of course, local officials that we do on the odd years, right? So the things that are really going to impact your pocketbook and whether the road is paved and whether the potholes are filled and all that happens at the local level. So that's why that matters. And by the way, I think 44% in a primary is really amazing. So that shows a lot of interest in those legislative races. I think part of it shows the healthy competition in the Republican races for those in that primary election, right, where you've got a lot of interest, several candidates, and a lot of money, a lot more money.
Well, and interestingly, you've been tracking some races where they've sort of flip-flopped over the years all across the state.
Yeah, there are several where it's either a rematch or I think in one case it's a third time, right, that the same people have faced each other.
Up in District 1?
Yes. And isn't there one over in eastern Idaho too? Where
Eastern, it's a rematch over, I think it's District 33 for the House of Representatives.
Yes. Wow. So it's never over, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And important to remind our viewers at home, this is again a primary election in which the parties choose their candidates to then send to the general election. And Secretary of State Phil McGrane, you can speak to this. The Republican Party has chosen to close their primary, but the Democrats have opted to open it. How does that work on Election Day?
Other than confusing voters, I can say that now because Election Day is over. There were choices to be made. That said, Idaho, and Governor Little and Senator Risch really highlighted this. Idaho has become such a Republican state.
Yeah.
You know, for better or worse, I know that doesn't fit for him, but the numbers, and we see it in terms of the ballot selection throughout the day. Right now, 62% of Idahoans are registered as Republicans, and that's in comparison to 12% registered as Democrats.
Wow.
So the real challenges, and you know this covering it, is the dynamics within the Republican Party. I mean, you saw that on the ballot, well, on both of those races.
The fracture, sort of.
The fracture, well, and I don't have fractures, but you see all the different stripes. And as people are moving in, you know, it was interesting with all the services for Governor Kempthorne last week. Obviously, I was very involved in that.
Yeah.
There's still a healthy portion of our population that doesn't know who Governor Kempthorne was, because the state has grown so much.
True.
As Governor Little said, we are growing extremely fast, a lot of new people, and that changes the dynamics, changes some of the priorities. You know, we've been historically an agricultural state. You see those issues at the State House coming out, and I think tonight's election is going to be a little of assessment and where is the legislature going to head in this next cycle. I can tell you leadership in both the House and the Senate are watching the races very closely tonight because they're trying to see what is the makeup of the legislature going to look like for potential races for leadership come December.
Yeah.